Draft bust. Empty stats guy. Former lottery pick that just got salary dumped. Damn, y'all live like this? Well, Nets fans, you guys just signed Killian Hayes, a former 7th overall pick that got waived by the Detroit Pistons. He wasn't good enough for a team with 14 wins, and he also got waived by his national team. Didn't get picked by the French team to compete at the Olympics. Whoop-de-doo. Now, before we get into today's video, I'd just like to say, like, subscribe, all that stuff, but also that this is an experimentation with a new video style that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be traveling later in the year, so I want to just experiment the next few videos, see what you guys like, respond to, because I won't be able to do face cam stuff while I'm traveling. So if this is good to you, let me know in the comments. If it's not, let me know in the comments. So anyway, the Brooklyn Nets have sort of become the island of misfit toys, if you will. They have sort of taken on a lot of draft busts, a lot of reclamation projects, and they have gotten to a point where it's probably tough to be a Nets fan, but not as tough as it was like last season, because they do actually have their picks, which I will talk about at some point during this. But anyways, so I'm just going to go over each player on their roster, how they acquired them, and maybe what I think their future can be on this team. So starting off, Dariq Whitehead. Dariq Whitehead was acquired through the draft. I believe he was the 21st overall pick. He was someone who was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, had a lackluster year at Duke because in large part due to injury, and he's dealt with injuries a lot at the NBA level too. He was really bad at Summer League. I believe he shot like 11% from the field or something like that. And while I was high on Dariq coming out of high school, coming out of college, I still thought he could, reach a certain level of potential that I thought he had before the draft and all that stuff. I now don't think he's going to amount to much. Not because of anything he's done in specific, just I feel like he's a little too late in his development arc to really become at least what I thought he could become before. If you're going to struggle that heavily at Summer League and in the NBA minutes, the G League minutes he played last season, it's tough for me to be super optimistic about him. He is going into his second year though, so who knows? Maybe he shows some flashes and shows the sort of scoring and defensive potential he flashed in high school. Next is Cam Johnson, and they acquired him in the KD trade. He was acquired alongside Mikal Bridges, and while Mikal Bridges just got traded for a king's ransom, he has still been left to sort of rot away on this roster, and I do feel a little bad for him because he's a winning player. He should be on a winning team, and I expect him to be traded at some point. I know the Nets have at least looked at trading him in the past. They want multiple first-round picks, is my understanding, and from that you can take that no team has really wanted to pay that yet, especially considering he's getting paid a hefty contract. I believe $27 million a year or somewhere in that range. He is someone who, who he is. He's a good 3-and-D player. He's a sharpshooter. He's not quite as good defensively as some people might make him out to be, but he's still a very positive defender. And yeah, next is Ziaire Williams, who they just traded for the other day. I believe it was they got a second to take him on, from what I recall. He was salary dumped. He is a player who Grizzlies fans were high on for a little while, and then they realized, oh, this guy sucks. This guy's not good. And he isn't good. There's not a single thing I think he does at an above average level in the NBA. And it's become increasingly obvious that he probably is not an NBA player long term. He might get a second contract just because he was a lottery pick, and guys tend to get, second chances, especially if they were drafted that high. But up until, his contract expires, I believe after this season, maybe a year after, we will see him in the Nets uniform not being particularly good. I'm pretty out on him long term, and God knows that Grizzlies Twitter was happy to finally have him gone. There's no way, in my mind, Ben Simmons, if you asked me, 4 or 5 years ago, hey, is Ben Simmons going to be like teetering on having a roster spot? Absolutely no way. I say I would expect him to be an all-star, but he's not. He's wasting away on the Brooklyn Nets. This is the last year, I believe, of his original deal, which paid him around $38 to $40 million a season. And once they finally get off that, I don't know what'll happen. You need a lot of infrastructure to make his game work. He has lost some of that athleticism that he had as a rookie, as a younger player. He still cannot shoot a lick, and he is a lot more timid now than he used to be. So I hope it works out for him. He has some mental health stuff, and mental health is very real. It's just unfortunate that he has ended up as this reclamation project that probably won't turn out. Next is Dennis Schroeder. He's a good veteran point guard that I don't entirely remember how they got. I believe they signed him out of free agency, or was a trade with Toronto, one of the two. And yeah, I expect him to be dealt at some point. I don't expect him to be on the Nets by the deadline because, again, just like Cam Johnson, there's no reason for him to be here. There's not really a point in him being here. Day'Ron Sharpe is cool. He's a good backup center. He's pretty traditional with how he, approaches his game, run, dunk, block shots, that sort of thing. He's pretty solid at it, young. Know they were potentially looking at shopping him during the draft. I know the Grizzlies were interested among other teams, but there's not any immediate trades to trade him from what I am aware. And I would expect him to sort of keep doing what he's been doing, which is just be a decent backup center. Noah Clowney was one of the more improved players at Summer League. Same with Jalen Wilson. Jalen Wilson, I believe, won Summer League MVP, so shout out to them. I expect them to have more opportunity and more time to show what they can do on an NBA court. I don't know if I necessarily expect them to contribute a ton right now at an NBA level, but, that's sort of what that is. Next up is Cam Thomas, who is a very good scorer. Not much else besides that. He is not a playmaker. He's not a defender, but he can score. And I think he might potentially get an all-star appearance, like the Zach LaVine all-star appearance from a few years ago. And if that happens, I expect him to be averaging roughly 25, 26 points a game. I don't think he hits 30. 30 is ridiculous, but I think he could get up to around the 25 mark, because who else is going to take shots on this team? And if there's one thing about Cam Thomas that we know, it's that he loves to shoot. I'm going to group these two together. Dorian Finney-Smith and Bojan Bogdanovic are both veterans that they have gotten through some form of trade, and eventually, we've gotten to this point where, just like Cam Johnson, just like Dennis Schroeder, they're on a team they don't really belong on that is currently looking to trade them. I would be shocked if either of these were on the team by the deadline. Maybe not by the season start will they be traded, but I expect at some point they will be. And then we have Nick Claxton, who just re-signed with them for, I believe, like $30 million a season, something like that. It was a contract that I'm not surprised he got. He's pretty good. He is, a really good defensive player. I think his sort of archetype is falling out of the league a bit. Okay, sorry, 4-year, $97 million. So not $30 million. It's like $24 million, which is reasonable. And Nick Claxton's archetype, as I was saying, I think is falling out of favor because we've seen a lot of big-bodied centers come into the league recently. Outside of like Wemby, most of the guys are pretty strong and big. Like Zach Edey is huge. Just as an example, there's more than him, but brevity. And I expect him to continue to be good. I think we know who Nick Claxton is at this point. I wish he signed somewhere where he could actually contribute, but hey, get your money, King. And then Keon Johnson is one of the players of all time, and yeah, that's the roster. So it's sort of interesting to me that they've ended up as this sort of, as I've said and probably titled this video, this island of misfit toys, because they don't have a player that people are like, yes, he's good, outside of like Cam Thomas, maybe, Cam Johnson, maybe. A bunch of these guys are either vets that people don't want anymore and discarded. They're former lottery picks that don't really belong on an NBA roster to a lot of people. Like Killian Hayes, I don't think belongs anywhere near an NBA roster. I think he's a EuroLeague player. If you're a former, people will give you opportunity, and he's taking that opportunity. So I hope it turns out well for them. I believe turning out well for them in this case would mean, hey, they suck. And I hope that they have a successful tank job. Not too successful to where they end up with Cooper Flag, because I think it'd be really funny if they didn't end up with Cooper Flag. But the 2025 draft class is really good and has a lot of talent that would be just, franchise altering. VJ Edgecombe is one of those guys. I think I'd have him number 2 right now. But that's all I am going to do for this video. So if you liked this video, like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Let me know how you liked, the talking head sort of stuff, the avatar, whatnot. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.